We did it, stream! I'm Masters!
What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for Your Overwatch. Today we're going to be covering quite a controversial topic, so I hope you guys will be patient with me and hear out my arguments before you respond negatively. Now, obviously, any critical video that we make is done because we love the game, not because I just have things to cry about all the time. In reality, I love the game and the community and so much about it, but if I simply just said good things about the game constantly, I don't think we'd ever improve it to something even better than it already is. So if it sounds like I'm being too negative in this video, please keep that in your mind, that I don't hate the game, I love the game very, very much. But having a voice on YouTube, I think it's important that we express community issues in order to make the experience better for everybody, rather than stagnating and let things frustrate us over time. Now, today, we're talking about the truth about the ranking system. You may think to yourself that if you rank up enough, there will be a light at the end of the tunnel of ELO hell, and you'll eventually reach a spot where everybody coordinates and team play is the focus. But I'm afraid to tell you that that kind of isn't the case. Now, the truth of the matter is, as you rank up, the players you'll play with are definitely better. They're better mechanically, they make less mistakes, but the crucial difference between the solo queue meta and the 6-stack meta is still prevalent. Now, some of you might not know what I mean when I say solo queue meta. I don't mean necessarily that everybody's solo queuing in the game, but that sometimes is the case. But also, if you go in as like a 2 or a 3, and you have 3 solo queuers on your team, and the enemy team does as well, by necessity of the lack of communication that you're going to have, the game plays more solo queue-esque. And really, until you get 2 full teams of either 5 or 6, real Overwatch doesn't really start. What I mean by that is, there's many aspects of the game of Overwatch that don't get maximized in the solo queue environment, even at the highest ranks, unbelievably. You'd think that a player that gets all the way to Masters or Grandmasters in solo queue would be a master of the game, and they probably could even pop onto a pro team with no problem. Well, maybe some of the DPS players could adapt into the pro setting, and they have. For instance, Kib was picked up based upon his stats alone, but it's hard to say that we have like a feeder system through the ranked mode currently, although I know Blizzard is trying to develop that for the Overwatch League, but I hate to tell you that the solo queue meta is not the place to find it on the whole, and let me explain why. In solo queue meta games, the coordination is put down to a minimum, which allows for a lot of individualistic play to flourish. What do I mean by that? One of the most common examples that shows a massive difference in skill gap and understanding of the game of Overwatch is in tank play. For instance, Reinhardts in solo queue often aren't used to a coordinated push from an enemy team's Reinhardt to pin them, and therefore aren't used to the very pin-happy playstyle in 6-stack. In solo queue, it's more about putting up your shield and poking at the choke forever, even at higher SR. In the 6-stack meta, there's much more emphasis on set plays, which sort of build the template for the battlefield. Let me describe one for you. 3 pieces: Lucio, McCree, and Reinhardt. Reinhardt puts his shield in front of the 2 of them. Lucio pops E for speed boost to close the distance between their Reinhardt onto the other Reinhardt. McCree pops a stun over the enemy team's Reinhardt, and now Rein has a large stunned target to completely remove the enemy team's Rein from play, opening up the battlefield, ending the whole poke at the choke war. That type of play isn't based on individual mechanics, really, because each player's coordination enables the other player an easy time. The speed boost makes it a quick action for the enemy team to have little time to react to. The Rein's charge is incredibly easy to hit once the stun lands, and this coordination play opens up the entire fight. In the solo queue meta, things like that just don't really happen, because McCree, instead of being behind his Reinhardt, might be flanking over to the right side. Lucio's more likely to stay on healing forever and poke at the choke, and Reinhardt's never going to pin in because he feels like he's throwing the game and being too aggressive, which he kind of would be if his team's not ready to follow up on the initiation. But that's the key difference in the massive chasm between the 2 styles of play. It doesn't take a ton of skill to have that coordination, to hit a couple easy abilities in succession, but it's incredibly powerful to the way Overwatch should be played. Another example, solo queue Zaryas oftentimes play the game in order to just soak up free chip damage to boost up their charge. Well, in the style of game where the enemy team isn't doing a set play like stunning the Rein shield initiation, that might be okay. You might not be in fear of a coordinated push happening at any time. So when the enemy fire strike comes in, you can just pop your bubble and get easy charge. You can pop a bubble at a teammate over in some irrelevant fight to just get some more easy charge. You'll boost up your damage, you'll deal more damage than the enemy team's Zarya, and you'll win the poke at the choke battle. And that's typically how good Zarya solo queue play is played. But the truth of the matter is, against a more well-coordinated team in a 6-stack, even if a Zarya is at full charge, she's going to have a hard time finding the key targets that win a team fight. So the damage potential she has is capped off by the fact that there's only going to really be tanks in front of her. 6-stack teams are much more disciplined in their positioning, and if she just lays damage into the opposing team's Reinhardt, for instance, yeah, she might get the shield down, she might deal a bunch of damage and charge her ultimate, but really she's just charging Ana's ultimate. And you need that Ana dead in order to win the team fight. So in that environment, saving your bubble to pop on your Genji, who's in a fight with the Ana in the backline, whether it gives you charge or not, but buys time for your teammate to kill a key target, is much more value than simply charging up your own personal damage. Because if you take that solo queue playstyle of Zarya into the 6-stack meta, and the enemy team, for instance, has a Zarya, kills your Ana in the way I'm describing, all the damage in the world that you can do as Zarya doesn't matter because a key component of your composition just died for your individualistic playstyle. And then the proper response instead would likely be to pop the bubble on your Ana to save her life, whether it gets charge or not, so that she doesn't die in your backline. All the while, you might not be getting tons and tons of charge, but you're making much more team play focused decisions with your bubbles and having a much bigger impact than you would be if you just played Zarya for her DPS potential. One last example, Genji, who I didn't really think needed to be nerfed to begin with, by the way, and I think it's due time that he gets buffed up, or at least the nerfs reverted, to at least make him more playable. We can leave Sword alone fine. But if Soldier, who's much easier hero to play, is going to be as strong as he is now, I think Genji can get some love. Anyway, a few months ago, a lot of the forums were going crazy with people saying that Genji was overpowered. Well, in the solo queue playstyle, where you're trying to play Zen, you pop the Discord on the enemy Genji and he's harassing your backline, and your uncoordinated team is still having these trash battles at the front line, not turning around to protect you. Yeah, Genji can seem incredibly overpowered. But playing more disciplined, when your frontline characters disengage from their irrelevant fight to help focus down the Genji in the backline, he seems far less threatening. And if they want to play with Genji, the enemy team is going to have to put much more resources to keep him alive in those positions as well. So I hope you can kind of see through these different examples. As far as I'm concerned, the highest form of Overwatch starts when the set plays and coordination is a given for the state of play. Then, once all that understanding is set, how do you overcome to win the game? Because honestly, that's how 6-stack games feel. They're a lot more challenging because of those reasons. You have to play in all these disciplined ways, and then still find ways to win beyond that, because the enemy team's gonna be doing them too. It's a lot more reminiscent of the pro style of play. And I would like to see Season 3 allow 6-stack to flourish, because right now, it has a whole list of disincentives to play it that I think need to be changed. One, the games are naturally harder, because it faces you up against other 6-stacks most of the time who are going to be trying to coordinate better to win. And I'm sure those of you who have played against 6-stacks, oftentimes there's a sentiment on your own team to say, they're a 6-stack guys, we gotta get our act together. No toxicity, no Hanzo picks, let's not do anything crazy, we have to coordinate, we have to have a good team comp. And oftentimes it raises the output that you even get out of those smaller queues who start to try to play more coordinated because they know they have to. I think the queue limits on 6-stacks are absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary. Supposedly, people are afraid that lower skilled players will be able to be propped up by higher skilled players. But this doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because if a lower mechanical skilled player is able to play, let's say, a support really well and knows their timings and positions properly, that's the entire point of the game. I mean, think of it like this. Would a pro team be able to say that a support player with a lower mechanical skill can't match up with their all-star DPS player? No, that's not how it works. As far as I'm concerned, if you see an enemy team that has 5 golds on it and a Grandmaster, and you can't beat that team, you deserve to lose. I don't understand the perspective at all that thinks that Overwatch is a solo carry game. It's not. All those coordination plays are what's required to win in a full team environment, not individualistic carry plays. Because it does not matter how good that Genji is. If you pick Winston and constantly dive him, the enemy team has to put resources to protect that player, and if they don't, you should win the game. And if you don't win the game, the enemy team had better coordination than you. I'm sure of it. The truth of the matter is, if I build a 6-stack and it has bronze or gold levels players, and they do a good enough job to win the game, they deserve to win the game. They deserve the SR they're going to get. Now, you can fix the SR numbers so it isn't too inflated or whatever you have to do, but you shouldn't stop me and bar me to be able to play with that player and lift them up into a rank where they actually can compete, because if they couldn't compete, they would lose the game for their team. If they understand their role and can fit into the 6-stack dynamic, they don't have to be incredibly skilled and can be a great asset to that 6-stack. That's the way Overwatch is played. That's the way it's built to be played. That's the way the pros play it. And that's the way the rank system should, in my opinion, have its incentives set up. The problem is, if we don't change something about this, we're constantly going to be incentivizing a style of play that is much different than the pro style of play. Most of the players at these higher ranks aren't going to be able to simply fit into the pros. I don't see a reason to push down 6-stack success, as it's already a harder way to play the game that fewer people want to even try, just because we're afraid that a player might be lifted out of a lower rank playing support for a skilled DPS, which, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of the entire structure of how Overwatch works, and should work, and is completely fine, but nevertheless, I think what I'd like to see, a different change that they could do, is let 6-stacks play against solo queues. Yep, that's a controversial opinion, but let me tell you why it's good. Instead of forcing the match finder to wait 5 minutes to find another 6-stack at my rank, I'd like to see the enemy team filled up with solo queuers, but particularly the bad kind that I get when I try to solo queue. I played one night by myself and got matched on the same team of a duo queue that in 3 games in a row never grouped up, trickled in every single time, played Roadhog when we don't have a main tank, got gold damage, and told me they were carrying. Even though they would push into Volskaya B by themselves, get a hook, get a kill, and die, despite the fact that the enemy team spawn is right there and a single frag isn't enough. Like, they don't understand the multiple complexities of the game, they don't understand the set plays, they don't understand the broader win condition of the game. That type of player shouldn't be propped up by the solo queue meta, allowing them to get rank just based upon how uncoordinated that solo queue is. If that player had to play against 6-stacks, their rank would get plummeted down. Now, the downside of this obviously is, well, what about the other 5 players that had to get punished by this one guy who doesn't understand the game? Well, to be honest, just about all solo queuers don't understand the game. That's the point I'm trying to make. The whole separate meta of how the game is perceived to be played in the solo queue meta doesn't have respect for the set plays that exist in the 6-stack meta. So this yields to tons and tons of misinformation and ignorance about how the game's supposed to be played. Tons of false understandings of what is viable and what's the appropriate response to things, and worse yet, when these players play in this environment and win half of their games and stay at like high diamond rank with honestly not a clue about how the game's supposed to be played, they ruin games anyway. If there isn't a way for those players to get weeded out of those ranks, the ranking system will never be legitimate. As far as I'm concerned, it should never be the case that a player in the top 5% of the entire community doesn't know what trickling in is. That's unbelievable. And if they had to play up against a coordinated team who never trickles in, punishes you harshly for trickling in, has the best positioning so your trash damage never goes anywhere, the community as a whole will start to have a window into how the pros play the game, because that's where I'm ultimately trying to gear this towards. I'd like to see matchmaking reward and feel much more like the pro play. And the only way to get that is in the full queue environment, which isn't the standard expectation of play because of all these other reasons I've already explained. It's too hard, you can't queue with your friends, based on strict ranking cutoffs. There's no incentive to do so because the solo queue meta is easier, and some might argue more fun, and some people who care about their ranks might not want to get stuck at a lower rank than they could get in solo queue, because that's what's going to happen to most players. It'll be much harder to grind rank out of plat and diamond in a 6-stack than it will be if you conform to the solo queue meta, play completely wrong and selfishly, but play into that style of play and try to carry yourself out of it. But it's sort of a rock and a hard place, because although 6-stack games are incredibly difficult and require you to have a strong command of the game entirely, solo queue games can feel like hell, because where everybody's doing everything wrong, it's a constant state of playing a game about which team makes the least mistakes, which team has the most accidental synergy. It's not about making plays and coordinating, it's about letting the enemy team mess up more than you. And that doesn't really teach you the game in the way that the 6-stack meta works, the way that I would like to see everybody gearing towards and trying to achieve. We shouldn't be idolizing the solo queue players that play this really unoptimized version of Overwatch. I have respect for the pro side of play, and I'd like to see matchmaking look much more like that and have the ranking system reward teams that play that way. But in the current setup, that can't happen. So I advocate either for 6 stacks to be able to play up against solo queuers, completely remove the queue limits altogether, have a separate ranking for teams so we can accurately judge how teams match up against each other. Because in reality, that's what Overwatch is about. It's not about individualistic play, it's about team coordination to set up your star players, to enable certain strategies, not just play for yourself the whole time in the scrummy, frag-heavy solo queue style of play. Guys, let me know what you think. I know this video is going to ruffle a few feathers. I hope you're patient with me and aren't too mad. I would like to know what you think in the comment section below, so be sure to let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the video, even if you disagreed with it, please hit the like button. It really does help us out. Subscribe to our channel for more. We upload each and every day. Follow us on Twitter for stream announcements, updates, and other fancy doodads at Your Overwatch YT. And also check out our Twitch page. We stream there each and every day. And in fact, today we're doing an awesome type of stream. Since we're in the off week between seasons, we're doing teaching golds how to 6-stack. And yes, that means you. If you're out there and you're trying to learn the 6-stack style of game, I'm going to be doing a new style of stream where we invite players that were lower ranked last season, go into a 6-stack game, and I try to teach them the fundamentals of how to play the game in the way that I'm explaining in this video here. It's going to be a lot of fun and something that I think we can do in future beyond the other types of streams that we do. So I hope you guys enjoy it. You can check that out, linked in the description, and be sure to follow us on Twitch so you can set up email notifications so you see when we go live. And also based on the title, you'll know what type of stream we're doing that day. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.